view it, it might not. But what's interesting is when we had the debates on the floor about this, those that don't like guns and those that would like to get away from the Second Amendment or do away with the Second Amendment, they like to bring up things like, oh, well, you're going to have people, shooting at the guy who wants to wash your window at the stoplight, or somebody's going to be at a hot dog stand and they're going to get irate with a customer and they're going to pull out their gun and shoot the customer.
Yeah.
And, you don't have that situation now. Why is it going to be any different? But nonetheless, that's the arguments, the silly arguments that you hear.
Right.
I just wanted to comment and say that this is the first opportunity I've had to have an instructor, somebody who's got to explain it to the public, do that, and that's really a big reason why I want to come. In addition to the fact that I haven't been able to visit with Wilson County Tea Party in quite a while, I just wanted to hear your presentation, and I very much appreciate it and appreciate what you're trying to help people understand. We tried to make it better, and there's more to do. Politically, I'm speaking. There's more to do. I would have liked to get it to restaurants. We had nervous Nellies on restaurants, and when you start having the WRL talk about guns in bars every 15 seconds, people get more nervous about doing that. We'll look at that again. We'll come back again. We're not done. We took a big chunk. I think we took a big chunk with 650 in the right direction, and we'll hopefully come back later and make some more improvements on some things. But expanding your rights to carry concealed was a big step, and there's no factual evidence to oppose it. It's only irrational emotion to oppose it. The statistics bear it out that everybody, the non-carrying public, is safer when those with concealed carry permits are allowed to carry.
Mm-hmm. Right.
When you have these gun-free zones, you have crime-ridden zones. You have target-rich environments for criminals. And I'll give you an example. There's always elements that are not even being malicious, but there's always elements that still want to push it back. I'll give you an example. I believe it was Winston-Salem. They have a number of like 5Ks and 10K races through their greenways through town. They wanted to know my opinion through their center. They wanted to know my opinion of them trying to designate a greenway as a recreational facility. Now we're talking about a greenway, and my response was, well, it doesn't have walls, you don't have a gate, you don't have a fence, you don't have a controlled access, and it's a greenway. That sounds a heck of a lot like a park to me, which is where we tried to expand concealed carry permit holders to go. And why do we want to make it where the woman who goes jobbing on the greenway has to worry about being dragged into the bushes?
Right.
Or a woman who's walking her dog or whatever. I mean, which is exactly what the point of all this was. So there's always efforts. I mean, the cities, municipalities, they're scared. They've got nervous Nellies going, oh, there's going to be a gun. Somebody's going to get hurt.
It's going to turn into Dodge City.
That's right. And we heard a lot of those arguments. Especially about the cars. And Florida's had some experiences. Their language isn't quite the same as ours, and we were cognizant of that. But they had some situations with drug dealers and claiming that drug deals in a car. I was shooting in self-defense and things like that. So we're aware of that, and we depending on how the future plays out, we may have to tweak things here and there. But we want to make it simpler for the average citizen who's lawfully possessing their firearms to understand what their rights are. You don't have time to call your lawyer. Yeah. That's the argument I made on the floor. You don't have time to call me and say, "Buck, can I shoot him?" You've explained it. You got 20 feet, and by the time you can barely get the thing out, they're in your face. And we have to make it. That was why we worked on the Castle Doctrine that way. Is we really wanted to clarify this, because my client really should have never been charged. Everybody in this room understanding the facts would have acquitted him in a heartbeat. But if you were sitting on a jury and you took an oath and the judge instructs you that you can't consider self-defense, and my client has testified that he shot him, what choice do you have as a juror but to convict of voluntary manslaughter, which was the lowest they could go? You don't have a choice. They're crying about it afterwards. They're upset. They're calling me up saying, I didn't know what else to do, but you know, these things matter. With the law as it is now, I'm hoping a DA would go, well, I mean, you know, I'm not even sure I can make this stick because look how the law is written. You know, it's got a rebuttable presumption. How am I going to rebut it? You know, so there are some things that will be further focused and further clarified as cases go to trial, as things happen, as events occur. You know, we shouldn't look at this 650 as it's now written in stone. You know, I like to say the left loves to repeal this stuff, and we finally got a chance to improve it, and so we'll have to keep. So I want to hear people's feedback, your feedback in the future, especially in the future as scenarios are presented to your situations, to see how we can improve this, because you know this was the ultimate lesson for me in my client's case. Hindsight being 20/20, knowing that the robber didn't have a gun, he wouldn't have shot him. He can't put the bullet back in the gun. But the reality is he did the right thing because he had about a half a second to think.
To make a decision.
To make a decision. And his wife is, from his view, is being attacked and they're being robbed. And, you know, he's got a guy reaching in his pocket. Has he got to wait? I mean, that was the question they asked at the Supreme Court. Does he have to wait until you actually see the gun to shoot?
Yeah.
The law was before and still is, if you are in fear as you perceive it, as the facts and the circumstances are presented to you, and you see it, not somebody second guessing you 45 minutes later when everybody knows exactly what happened, that you're in reasonable fear for your life or great grievous bodily harm or for another, then you have the right to employ deadly force in self-defense. And the problem is this, after the fact. It's real easy to say, you shouldn't have shot the gun. But when you're in the parking lot, Marie or Jasper, you know, and you're coming to Edna's aid, you don't have time to say, well, God, is he just pretending he's got a gun in his pocket? Or is his buddy going to pick up the knife? You know, you can't do that. So that's why we did it that way. And I talked a lot longer than I meant to, but I just wanted to thank you, compliment you on that. I want to make sure that the instructors out there, of course, are able to communicate it effectively, because if the concealed carry permit holders don't know what their responsibilities are, then they're more likely to do something that WRL says, oh my God, we've had this you know, this is why we need to get rid of this stuff, you know. So
I personally feel like,
I like to make a comment with respect to that. This is fine if you're addressing people who are trying to get a concealed carry permit, but if you have a weapon in your home when you don't have a concealed carry permit, what is being done to give those people the knowledge they need to have with respect to the castle?
well, and
Well, I think all this has been published already,
basically,
because I know I've read it.
Well,
about communicating to people about 650.
Yeah, that's true.
Is the question about communicating this bill to everybody at home? As a concealed carry permit holder, you are required. I mean, basically, just like you and I are supposed to know that when the sign out there says 45 mile an hour,
Jeff,
that's it.
he's asking about somebody does not have a concealed permit that has a weapon in his home.
You need to go take a class is what you need to do. You need to take a class, and nothing says that if you go take a concealed carry class, you have to go get the permit. But I'm telling you, especially and I tell this to a lot of folks, there's nothing wrong with just coming and sitting in the class and learning what the law says and so on and so forth. some people don't even realize that you are allowed to carry on your person concealed on your property or in your workplace without a concealed carry permit. Now, I always try to tell people when they come to my class, I'm like, look, if you're just planning on carrying on your property or in your workplace, you don't need to take a concealed carry class. I mean, it'd be a good idea to know the law, but you don't have to get a concealed carry permit to carry concealed on your own property or in your workplace.
Suppose you have a hunting license and you carry, it's not concealed, okay?
It's okay.
Carry, so, you got it on your side, you got it on your hip. Go any place you want with it?
Not any place.
Well,
That's
Most
normally
places.
not in the banks or anything.
Most places.
Most places, I mean, off your property.
Yeah, because even they included the state parks
Right.
in that.
Yeah.
So you've got state parks. If I remember right, it was actually under, while Obama was in office, there was another bill that went
Well,
through.
the federal government, see, that was the irony, is that the restrictions in the state parks of North Carolina were more severe than they were in the federal parks. If you were a concealed carry permit holder and you were in a federal park, you could carry, but you couldn't carry in a state park that might be, sometimes the state in the mountains and places, sometimes the state and federal parks are all abutted, and you don't always know which park you're in. And you could be in, fine if you were in the federal park, but not in the state park.
If you're over 70 and above, you get a lifetime license.
Right.
Right, $10, you got a lifetime license.
Right.
You carry it all the time, you're not just strapped on your back or anything like that. To carry or something like that. But let me ask you a question as far as the legal.
Can I say, I want to answer what I'm sorry, I don't know your name, Bob. You were asking about communication and there's not. I think the easiest way to answer your question is there's not an easy way for me or the legislature to publish these changes in the law. One of the reasons why I tried to do it the way we did it was because I wanted the law statutorily to fit more with what I think everyday common citizens already think the law is. Okay? And that's what I found in that trial experience and otherwise, is that most people think that what we've just done in 650 either is the law or should be the law. And so number one, even if they haven't heard it told to them in a class or whatever, it's more commonsensical what we've done here. If somebody's breaking in your home, you don't have to retreat, and you can assume that they mean to do you harm. If they're kicking in the door. And does that answer your question? Other than going through organizations like the NRA or taking courses or grassroots or some of the other places around, I'm sure now that there's plenty of things now out there on the internet about these changes. I haven't done the research, but I would assume that there is some of that.
In a lot of the gun forums.
Yeah, the gun forums and so places. I think there's a lot of places out there to get that information. I wish I possessed the capability to broadcast it, but I have one staff person and no budget. So.
Well, and again,
I've researched this on the web, I looked into it, but I mean, everybody doesn't have that.
Right, that's right.
yeah.
And they're not going to.
There's plenty of associations. The NRA is one. There's another group called the United States Concealed Carry Association, USCCA. If you go to a gun forum, I guarantee you they will have talked about some of these changes. And the fact that they're effective December 1st, I don't know for sure that everybody knows that. As a concealed carry holder, it's your responsibility to not only know if your concealed carry permit is reciprocal in other states before you travel. So like for instance, concealed carry in North Carolina doesn't necessarily give you permission to just go anywhere in the states and carry concealed. You need to know if it's reciprocal in that particular state. So you go to the Attorney General's website, you can do your homework and stuff like that. I found myself traveling over to Kansas City one time, and for whatever reason, I don't even know how I ended up in Pennsylvania, but I just caught the edge of Pennsylvania. And I noticed that my concealed, because I had my little travel guide with me, of where my permit was available. And I was like, oh, I can't carry concealed in this particular state. So it's your responsibility as an individual to know, hey, you know, if I speed in this state, I'm gonna get a ticket for this or whatever. Same thing applies to concealed carry or basically most states, they pretty much, well, depending on the state, you have to have the ammo maybe locked in the cab of your vehicle and the firearm actually locked in the back.
Did Virginia just do that? Virginia was pretty tough.
Yeah, well, in Illinois, if you try to go through Illinois, you better not have a firearm in your vehicle. You just better not.
Jersey's the same way.
Jersey, I've heard that about a couple of truck drivers told me that Jersey was the same way. Wisconsin, I mean, they're trying, I think you just passed concealed carry in Wisconsin, but it was kind of the same way. Basically, in the state of Illinois, you have to have a little, basically a firearms ID card to buy ammo, and you have to have one to buy a firearm. And the only kind of firearms that are essentially available in that state is a .22 and a shotgun. And that's pretty much it. If you want to get a high-powered rifle, they're going to look at you like, oh, this is a bad guy in the making. He's going to be a terrorist. I just know it.
Well, let me ask this question. How about the protection of the innocent in this bill? A couple of years ago in Dallas, a fellow lived in Dallas who was well known to the police in a friendly way and that sort of thing. Came upon a scene, okay, where the police were in a firefight. He leaves his car, he has a concealed permit. Texas is a little different setup now. Comes on out, joins in it, fires a wild round, kills an innocent victim. How's the law fixed? How do y'all fix for that? What's illegal?
Well, the law of North Carolina, I'm really not familiar with Texas law, so I won't just stick with North Carolina. The law of North Carolina is that you have the same right to defend another person as you would have to defend yourself. Okay, so but Jeff is exactly right. If you're wrong about the facts, and if you were the one that was in that situation and you couldn't defend yourself, then you're in trouble if you go and wade into that without knowing what you're doing.
That shot somebody else.
No, I understand, but there's no. You see, in order to commit a crime like voluntary manslaughter or murder, okay, or assault, there has to be intent, okay, and now we're wading into parsing legal strategy, but there has to be intent. So if you were justified in your intent in discharging the gun, you just missed what you were aiming at, and there's no criminal intent to have committed the crime. Okay, presumably they're going to say you committed. The worst you're guilty of is negligence of not handling your firearm. You may be civilly liable. You may face a big lawsuit, but if you are justified in discharging the firearm and you miss what you're aiming at, and you accidentally hit someone or something else that you didn't have that same right to shoot, then you can't have the criminal intent to have tried to hurt them because it's really an accident. You had the right to presumably defend yourself is the reason why you're discharging the gun.
And I think that's important, right, what he just said. You are defending yourself. You are not rolling up to a crime scene where you got cops shooting people because they're bad guys. A concealed carry permit does not authorize you to come and come to the aid of law enforcement. Law enforcement, they're doing their job. You need to stay out of their way. Okay, well, this guy was, in my opinion, no legal opinion, is totally wrong for even being there. Okay? Totally wrong. Concealed carry permit does not give you anything but the option to plead self-defense if somebody's attacking you, your wife, your kid, and so on and so forth. Unless
it was just a bad judgment, that sort of thing. In a civil lawsuit, you're going to get nailed.
I mean, candidly, I say this tongue in cheek, but I mean, I don't know if the person died. I hope not. But I mean, the victim's family, the victim, I would not mind being their lawyer if they wanted to hire me. I mean, it would, assuming he had a deep pocket. So, I mean, Jeff's exactly right. I mean, about firearms, let me say this about firearms. He talked about how serious they are and how people get killed. I was involved in a hunting accidental death. I mean, not I was there. It wasn't my gun or me. I was there. It was a hunting accident, and it will haunt me the rest of my life. I didn't see it happen. I heard it through about 100 yards of woods, and I heard the screams, and I saw the body, and I saw the boy who accidentally shot the other boy, and it was I'll never forget it for the rest of my life. And anybody who's going to carry a firearm, whether it's hunting or for self-defense, has to really needs to be very serious about the whole thing. And the idea that they would wade into a conflict between law enforcement and someone else, that would be, to me, that would just be a pure example of the bad judgment that hopefully concealed carry permitting classes in the process helps either weed those people out or weed those notions out of their minds. And that's just not where the average citizen should find themselves. I mean, except in maybe the most extreme of circumstances that are probably one in a million or more. I mean, if I had a client that was dumb enough to get involved in a police shootout, I don't know how else to say it. So.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. Let me recap here.